Cage. Oh, I think we're live. It's Friday evening with Frankie on FSPN. Just trying to do a little Friday night hang. We'll see if anybody wants to show up. Oh, I should open my doc. Hickory dickory. Doc. Select stream. What about this one? It says, excellent. Phil Adams is here. All the way across the pond. Hello, Philip. It's a little late where you are. It's only 6 o'clock here on the East Coast of America. But where old Phil Adams is probably around 11:30 p.m. Getting a little late. But we'll do a little Friday night hang. We'll see if anybody wants to hang out. You never know with these things. Maybe not. You never know. You never know. Boss Girl 8 is here. You got to wonder about you got to wonder about Boss Girl 1 through 7. What happened to them? But we'll see if who wants to show up, what they want to talk about. Let's see what Mr. Net Warrior has to say, shall we? Probably we'll have to do a lot of debunking, I'm going to bet. Let's see. So right off, seems Cars had surgery on the same shoulder a few years ago, and this time he refused surgery in preference to therapy. I find this pretty discouraging. Your thoughts? Where are you getting that information? I don't think that's true. Well, he didn't have therapy this time. That we know. But it's also possible, due to the nature of the injury, that you can heal it through rehab and rest, which he did. So about the same shoulder years ago, I don't think that's accurate. Tell me what your source of the information is, and I'll look it up, though, just to be honest. So, of course, when it comes to Derek Carr, he's got to clear the medical. I mean, that's obvious. That's with any player. So if he's not healthy, then he's not going to play. I mean, we're not going to sign him, obviously. He says he's healthy. The brother says he's healthy. Everybody says healthy. So he's got to clear a physical, of course, just like anybody else, Mr. Ned Warrior. So I know that it's a rough time to be a Jet fan right now. A lot of people out there are feeling very, very toxic and feeling very, very negative. And anything that happens that could be positive, we're going to look at the negative. I get it. It's been a rough time. But the thing about the injuries is he's got to clear the physical. If he's good to go, he's good to go. That's all that matters. So Phil says, good evening, Google AI. That's not really a source, but let's try it. Because even if you have Google AI or one of these AIs, they got to tell you where they get the information from. They don't just generate it. So let's go to Grok and say, list all of the known injuries in his career and like I said, it doesn't really matter because he's got to clear the physical for Derek Carr and show sources for this information. So, like I said, he thinks he's healthy now, so that's good. Derek Carr. So this lists out all of the injuries. All right, so I got a good list here, at least as far as Grok is concerned, and it gives me some pretty good. Like 2014, he had a concussion in the preseason. Week 4, he had a grade 2 MCL sprain and a high ankle sprain. Missed the rest of the game, but returned after the bye week. 2015, finger sprain, cleared for practice. During season, thumb sprain, bruise, throwing hand. 2016, finger fracture, sprain, throwing hand, played through it. Week 16, right fibula fracture from a sack. Season ending, missed finale, playoffs, derailed strong start. 2017, transverse process fracture in back. Missed one game. Returned for season. Later Raiders years, occasional minor issues, but no major season-altering ones. 2023 with the Saints, AC joint sprained shoulder, played through, aggravated later. So maybe that's what you're talking about. He had an AC joint, yeah, but AC joint sprain, they often play through. That's not a big deal. That's what Drake May had. He played through, and lots of guys play through that. Week 10, concussion, grade 1. Week 11, another concussion. So he basically has had, typical injuries of a modern-day quarterback. And he played through a lot of them. And the ones that were minor, like AC joint sprains, pretty minor. You usually get a shot for that. You play through it. So there you go. Again, nothing too concerning for me. And it gives me all the links here. And I got all the links. So I think that's pretty accurate. So there you go, Net Warrior. There you go. Hi Karate is here. Jet fandom is testing, but still, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Yeah. Mark Zajet is here. Okay, Zazetti. Todd is here. Take care of the animals. Boss Girl 8 says, I'm on the optimistic side of objective reality. I get people who are on the pessimistic side. I don't understand the hysterically toxic negativity. We improved the coaching staff, now add talent and win games. Yeah. I got news for you, Boss Girl. I think if we get Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins, I believe, and then a couple other things have to go right, of course, but that's sort of like the starting point. With a few pretty, realistic scenarios, I think we're going to the playoffs. Playoffs? Yep. Well, it was kind of debunked, Mr. Net Warrior. You were kind of right. In 2023, he did have something in the shoulder, but it was just an AC joint sprain, which is minor. So, nothing to worry about. That's the way we would put it. He's had some injuries. He usually plays through. He's tough, that whole thing. He plays through, but this is what happens to quarterbacks these days. That's why the backup quarterbacks are so important these days as opposed to the old days when everybody had steroids and could, play through anything, and plus they were playing 14 games, etc. So that's where we are. That's where we are. Now, you may not have heard the news, but there was some Jet news having to do with Joe Klecko. Yeah, something happened with Joe Klecko. And that is, do you remember, do I have this? Shoot, where did I put it? Okay, well, I guess I thought I saved it to the bookmarks, but I guess I didn't. But Joe Klecko, here it is. As of 21 hours ago, today, the President Trump, granted pardons to 5 former NFL players: Joe Klecko, Nate Newton, Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, and the late, great Dr. Billy Cannon. As football reminds us, excellence is built on grit, grace, and the courage to rise again. So is our nation. Special thanks to Jerry Jones for personally sharing the news with Nate Newton, and blah, 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 blah. So Joe Klecko, that insurance fraud thing that he was involved in, he just got a pardon for that. So isn't that nice? Let's see if we go to this article, if it tells us anything more on ESPN about Joe Klecko. Wow. Klecko pleaded guilty to perjury. He lied. He lied. Come on. In 1993, after lying to a federal grand jury that was investigating insurance fraud. Insurance fraud. Those insurance people are bunches of bastards. That's what they are. I don't blame Joe Klecko one bit. Well, anyway, but then again, you shouldn't lie to a grand jury. So, please don't do that. If you're getting into a problem, don't lie to the grand jury. That's illegal. Don't do that. But nonetheless, Joe Klecko now has a pardon, so it's like it didn't even happen. So good for Joe Klecko. All right, Joey. Way to go, Joe. Wipe it off the record. So that's some good news. That's some good news. Oh, Boss Girl agrees. We're going to the playoffs, everybody. Of course, need functional. Yeah, right. That's the whole idea. Is all we really need. I mean, if we get Carr or Cousins, those are functional quarterbacks. They can run the offense in a reasonable manner. I've just been watching. I've watched the first 4 games of Derek Carr in 2024, the last season that he played. Did you know in 2024, the first 2 games he played in 2024, they put up 91 fucking points total? Not each game. Did you know that? 2024, not too long ago, first 2 games of the season, the New Orleans Saints put up 91 points. Hello? And people don't want this guy to be our quarterback. Hello? McFly. But anyway, he's overall, so those were really great games, but he's a functional quarterback. Same thing with Cousins. Once you get them in place, you sign Brees, you sign AVT, you sign Anzalone, you sign Romy the homie, and a couple other dudes, maybe a Nick Cross at safety, and then you got 4 premium picks. You're going to get blue chippers in the first 2 rounds, 4 of them. And we can put all 4 on defense. That's not going to improve the defense? And now Aaron Glenn's going to be calling the plays, by the way. That's got to be able to get us into playoff contention area, 8, 9, 10 wins. Then, what about after that? Then the next year, you go through the normal process, but your quarterback's still the same, whether it's Carr or Cousins. Hopefully it went good enough. They're still here. They're still good. And then we got 3 first-round picks, 3 in a stacked draft. We can pick our developmental quarterback if we want to, and then get 2 other blue chippers, and then another blue chipper in the second round to add to all the other blue chippers that we now have. Hello? So, I don't know. You could call me a little too optimistic, but I don't think we're too far off if we could just get a stable, steady Eddie quarterback in here. Yeah, right. That's 2 years worth for us. He put it up in 2 games, motherfucker. He's throwing 70-yard bombs to Rashid Shaheed and throwing beautiful touchdown passes to Chris Olave. Olave. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. 91 points. 9-1. So don't tell me about no Derek Carr. The man can play. As long as he's healthy, he can be at least functional. Only 35 years old. Now there is a rumor. There's a rumor from a trusted source, but nonetheless, this is the latest rumor. As of 1 hour ago, he says he received a text message. It is as follows. The Arvell Reese versus David Bailey debate is in full effect. All eyes have to be on the Jets at 2. So apparently, this is a little cryptic, but apparently the Jets are having internal discussions, Reese versus Bailey. I don't know if, that could mean a number of different things. That could mean they're trying to finalize their grades on these guys. And maybe they've already finalized their grade on Ruben Bain, so he's out of the conversation for now, but they got to get these 2 settled with their final grades, for example. And they're going through all their scouting reports and watching the film and everything else. So that could mean a million different things, but it could also just mean that the Jets are debating whether to go Arvell Reese or David Bailey. Now, my position on that is we already have David Bailey. His name is Will McDonald. So if you already have one like that, why don't you just take the other one? As long as they're similarly graded. If they have similar grades, just take the one that we don't have the kind of, So that would be my argument against David Bailey. I think he's going to be really good, especially sacking the quarterbacking. But we already have that with Will McDonald. We need a guy who can also play the run pretty well. So that's what I would say about that. All right. So for a Friday night, my little doc here tells me we got 10 concurrents in here, now up to 12. So, well, maybe it'll just take a little while for folks to get in here. It's already 6:15. But what we'll have to do is see who wants to show up. I mean, for Phil Adams, it's getting close to midnight over there in England. Now, we did get some court cases that came through. For example, the Brian Flores lawsuit got some movement. The court decided to say that lawsuit that Flores filed, and there's a couple other people on it, that it can move forward. And the problem that the NFL has there is that they have a process called arbitration, which is fine, except that the judge and jury in the arbitration is Roger Goodell. And that seems a little ridiculous when he's the commissioner of the NFL. How's he going to also be the judge and jury of your arbitration situation? So that, to me, does seem a little dubious, and I think that's at the heart of the case. And the court today said, yes, this can move forward. It does seem like that's worthy of having a trial about and seeing if that's fair labor practices. So that's news with Brian Flores, and that includes former Jet coach Steve Wilkes also on that lawsuit, and Ray Horton, whoever that is. And so that's going to apparently proceed. But why does it take so long for these cases to proceed in court? I don't know. Because the lawyers make money by the hour. That's why, Frankie. Oh, yeah. So there's that going on. There was an arbitrator ruling about those report cards that the union was putting out. They said this is a violation of the CBA. You can have a report card. You can work collaboratively on improving, workplace situation and stuff like that. But what you can't do, because the collective bargaining agreement prohibits it, is publish this and tell the world about it. So apparently the CBA says you can't do that. The Players Association did that. Clear violation, and they said so. So actually Woody was correct, Woody Johnson, for that one. Also in the judicial area, Trinidad Chambliss looks like for now he's going back to school. However, the NCAA is going to appeal that. The NCAA denied Trinidad Chambliss another extra year of eligibility. I think they denied him 3 or 4 times. There's different appeals processes and things. They said no. He took it to court, and the court said yes. So, but the problem is that that court was in Mississippi, and the judge was a graduate of Ole Miss. Oh, what a shocker. So I think that the young man has a problem in that once the NCAA appeals and they get a judge who's not a graduate of the college that would benefit from him playing for them, they're going to have a problem. If the NCAA cannot win in court here with this, then they're going to have to do something about their rules, because if their rules can just be circumvented by going to the courts, they got big problems. Because all the schools sign up for these rules. They agree to them. All of the athletes do. When you become a student athlete, you agree to all of the rules, the NCAA rules. So you're a party that agrees, and so is your university. And then everybody agrees, okay, these are the rules, and that if something's wrong, this is how you appeal it. This is who you appeal to, blah, blah, blah. This is the process. Everybody agrees. Yep, okay. And then they do the process, and then the court comes in and says, we don't like that process. Get out of here. So that's a problem. You can't have everybody agreeing contractually to something, and then everybody follows the contract, and then the court says, we don't like that. That's not going to fly. I don't see how that's going to fly. Then again, I'm not a lawyer, so who knows? But I think it's one of those things where in the courtroom, it's hard to rule against, a student athlete student athletes sitting there going, all I want is a fourth year of eligibility. Please let me play football. And, he's a nice young man. How are you going to rule against this nice young man? His mother's there. His nice mama is there. How are you going to rule against a mother and her son? Nice young man. The problem is there's contracts that you all signed. What is going on here? I don't, it's one thing to be a nice young man and have your mom in the courtroom, but these are contracts. So we'll have to see how that plays out. As for now, he's going back to Ole Miss. I think that's an as for now situation. And I think personally he's going to have a problem when it gets overturned. It better get overturned quickly because here comes the combine and then here comes the draft. And then what does he do if he can't go back to school? So, there might have to be a supplemental draft for that. And that's always weird. But that's the situation that happened there. And then Joey Aguilar from Tennessee also has a similar case, and that was not decided today. The judge said, I will have a decision shortly. And then, but that didn't mean today. But all of these eligibility cases have significant impacts on all of the college, all of the NCAA sports and everything else. So these are kind of far-ranging decisions that these stupid judges are making. And, we'll have to see if they stand, because if they do, then the NCAA needs to basically scrap what they were doing and figure something else out. You can't have a process by which you say, no, you didn't meet the terms of this agreement to get an extra year of eligibility, denied, and then have somebody say, no, that's not fair. It can't be denied. That means something's wrong somewhere. Something's wrong somewhere in that system when you have a contract that says, these are the things we do, and then if we deny you, that's the end of the road, and the person says, that's not the end of the road, I'm going to courts, and then the courts overturn the whole thing. So this is going to be very interesting to see how that all turns out. So Mr. Net Warrior says, Woody took his F to court. Yeah, but he was right. I hate to say it, but in this case, Woody was 100% right. It was completely unfair. They were asking all of the people that we released, like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, how are the Jets? How do you think Aaron Rodgers think the Jets are after he dealt with Woody and all the things stupid Woody did? And also, even after he got the F, he put in an entirely new locker room. You remember those new locker rooms? Everybody was saying those locker room facility upgrades that he made were phenomenal. And they brought the cameras in there. Remember what they look like? It was phenomenal. Woody was like, and the food we give them is gourmet food, no GMOs. We give them the best food, whatever they want. Woody basically said, whatever the players want, just ask and we will give it to you. How do you hold that against Woody? I understand he's easy to hate. Everybody wants to punch Woody in the head. I get it. Woody said, anything you want, players, ask and I shall give it to you. What more do you want? He gives them whatever they want. Yeah, we want to win, but Boss Girl says, oh, the judge in Ole Miss alum. I thought it had been Joe Judge. Well, Joe Judge should just shut up. Joe Judge should never open his mouth in public. Let's just be honest. Joe Judge should just never, ever speak in public. Maybe he's a good coach. Maybe he knows what he's doing on a coaching staff. I don't know. But Joe Judge should never speak in public ever. Just shut the fuck up. Never, never talk. If you're compelled to go on the stand, one word answers only. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's it. Shut up. Every time that man talks, he puts 17 feet in his mouth. Oh, a little one. What a moron. But yeah, that's the problem. This was a court in Mississippi with an Ole Miss graduate as the judge. And on top of that, what kind of judge, what judge really wants to rule against a nice young man like Trinidad Chambliss is, and then his mom's there? You're going to rule against a nice young man and his mother, like sitting there? You're going to be the one who says he can't get his $5 million from Ole Miss, they are human beings, these judges. They don't want to be meanies. But at the same time, we have these contracts, and so I can understand that. I don't blame Trinidad Chambliss for trying this. He's got $5+ million on the line. That's nothing to sneeze at. But at the same time, the NCAA has rules. And you agreed to those rules when you signed up to be an athlete. Everybody who signs up, including old Frankie, back in the day, I was an NCAA athlete for old SUNY New Paltz, right? Even back in the day, you have to sign contracts and you have to agree to all the rules. I remember doing that. I don't know, not like I really thought through the rules much. I was just like, okay, I guess I'll sign here. I want to play baseball, so. But you do, and so do the schools. The schools are all members of the NCAA. To get membership, one of the things you got to do, you got to agree to all the rules. And then Ole Miss is the ones really suing the NCAA in this case. So it's like, well, how did you agree to the rules and then say the rules aren't good? You agreed to them. You're here. You signed in. You signed up. Everything good. And then when something like this comes up, you don't like what we do because it disadvantages you. But these are the rules we set up in advance for everybody, not just Trinidad Chambliss, for everybody. There's thousands of these cases every year that get decided. Some get approved, some get denied, all based on the protocols that they have in the rules. That's the thing I don't understand. How do you have a contract that everybody agrees to? The school, the athlete, the NCAA, everybody, all good. Okay, let's go. And then the minute it disadvantages somebody, now you're going to run to the courts and pay a bunch of lawyers. So, very, very strange, in my opinion. And we'll have to see what happens on appeal. But if the appeal, I mean, they might have to appeal this thing all the way up, because let's say they appeal and then the Superior Court says rules in favor of the NCAA. Well, then the lawyers for Trinidad and Ole Miss, they're going to appeal to the next level up. And then the next level up. This might go all the way to the Supreme Court. And by that time, it's going to be 2027. What's this kid going to do? I mean, at some point, somebody has to decide whether he can play or not. We may get to the season, and Trinidad Chambliss may have to wait week by week to determine can he play or not play this week. I mean, how ridiculous would that be? So, a very interesting case, to say the least. And Joey Aguilar, similar. But these type of eligibility things it's a new problem for the NCAA because of the money. You know, in the past, this would have never gone to court because the money was, you couldn't prove damages. So now Ole Miss says, yeah, we'll give Trinidad $5 million to play next year, say, as part of Rev Share. There's Rev Share plus NIL. So he's going to make at least $5 million. And Ole Miss, has a contract with him. He signs the contract. Okay. So now the lawyer can go into the court and say, by denying this eligibility, which is, he says, against their rules. The NCAA says, no, it's within our rules. But he's saying, by going against their rules, they are denying my client $5 million. And he's a nice young man. Look at him sitting there. Doesn't he look like a nice young man? And everybody says, oh, yeah, he looks like a nice young man. And they're denying this nice young man $5 million. What? So this is a new tactic in American jurisprudence. And so we got to see how this plays out. But in the past, this never would have gone anywhere because that you couldn't have damages. Now, because you can have damages and provable damages, it's coming through the courts. So these decisions will have far-ranging effects. However it lands, and if it lands against the NCAA, then he'll go play football. But then the NCAA will have to decide what they're going to do. They can't keep having this situation where they got to go to court and defend themselves and this and that. They got to have rules that can work. And it may be that they need the federal government to step in and say, okay, these are the laws concerning these professional athletes. Because they're not amateurs anymore. Used to. When old Frankie was at old New Paltz, you know how much they paid me to play? Nothing. They didn't pay me jack shit. We were lucky if we could get a per diem. You remember what a per diem is? What when you're playing baseball, sometimes you got a road trip. We did have road trips. Got on the bus, get on the road. Got to play Oneonta. Got to play Binghamton. Got to play Cortland. Okay? And fuck Cortland forever. But then when you're on the road, guess what? You got to eat. You got to stay at a hotel sometimes so you can get a little per diem. That's about it. Per diem. Now it's a whole different story. So we were just trying to get a Whataburger. Now these people are trying to get a $5 million burger. That's a different kind of burger. All right, boss girl, let's not perpetuate the media narrative that Woody is the worst owner ever. Davis, Bidwell, Ross, Tepper, Haslam, these are a good point. Each of them is at least one of crazy, a cheater, a liar, or cheap. Woody isn't. Well, this is a very astute point, boss girl. I agree, and I always try to tell people, look, Woody has plenty of problems. We all know it. But he has, look, he took over in 2000, and from 2000 through 2015, we had a pretty good run. Think about it. We're in the playoffs a lot. Chad Pennington years. We had the two Sanchez years with Rexy. We had the Fitzpatrick year in 15. That was an exciting year. It fell short at the end. That's 15 years of pretty good, ownership situation. Now, the last 10 have been very bad. Very, very bad. And he's tried to step in and make it worse, but he's not cheap. Some years he plays around with the cash budget, which annoys the hell out of me. But other than that, he pays. He bought that whole facility he paid for. There's 5 or 6 teams right now, including the Patriots, that don't have their own facility, like a practice facility. Today the Houston Texans made an announcement. They're going to have a practice facility by 2029. Okay? They practice in their stadium. They don't have a practice facility. They don't have open field, grass field like we got. They don't got that. We do. 5 or 6 teams don't even have that. Woody paid for all that in addition to the stadium. So, Woody went 50-50 on the stadium with the Giants people, and look what the Giants people are up to. What about Steve Tisch? You forgot about Steve Tisch, boss girl. How about Steve Tisch, the 50-50 owner of the Giants, who's all up in the Epstein emails, talking about girls. Can you get me this girl, that girl? This one over here wants a spot in a movie. She's pretty good, but I don't know if we're going to give her a spot in the movie unless she does a little, you know what I'm saying? How about that? What about Steve Tisch? Worst thing they said about Woody in the Epstein emails, he had a dinner with some famous people. He ate some dinner. Steve Tisch getting girls left, right, and center from Ukraine and Russia and God knows where else. Think about what of a loser you have to be if you're Steve Tisch. You're rich as all hell. You're famous. You're a movie producer. You're in the movie business. And you still can't get girls? What kind of loser is this? Excuse me. If I could do a better job getting girls, and I don't got any of that. I got this camera right here. I got this microphone. I got a laptop. I got a, Amazon Basics computer monitor. I got this Pure Aqua purified water. I ain't got nothing. I could do a better job picking up the chickies than Steve Tisch. Why don't you throw him in there? When I was at New Paltz, man, I could tell you some stories. Holy smokes. Well, Todd, I already told you. Fuck SUNY Cortland forever. Listen to me. SUNY Cortland was like the big bad wolf of the SUNYAC conference, okay? They always beat up on little old New Paltz. It was David and Goliath. And then I showed up and I shoved it in their fucking face. Those motherfuckers. They couldn't touch old Frankie. Back in the day, I used to be quite the athlete, Todd. And New Paltz was not a historical sports powerhouse, you understand? Cortland, these guys showed up. They were 8 feet tall, okay? They were like, moving trees, these fuckers. You understand? And they would always come, and it would be Cortland 20, New Paltz 0. Cortland 15, New Paltz 0. Then Frankie showed up. And then things started to change. And that's why I could tell you some stories from the New Paltz days, but that's a whole other podcast. And that's why it's fuck SUNY Cortland forever. Plus, I found out that Will Parkinson went there, and he's a dick, as we all know. World Sex Center, Steve likes them. Well, that's actually the opposite point that people are making. They're saying, well, this is, sketchy and skeezy, but it seems to be all adults. And other people are saying, I don't know about that. Hopefully it's all adults at least, because then it goes from, then it's just sketchy and sleazy and, if they're underage, then we got to put this man in jail or under the jail. You know what I'm saying? Sajeti. Chiefs, Panthers, Vikings, Eagles, Bengals owners were all part of the action. When I was younger, Cortland was the party city near me. Well, Todd, that's because they have the school there. Why do you think that is? And by the way, you think old New Paltz wasn't a party school? We had something called the Tripping Fields, my friend. Yeah, it was a college town. Guess what happens in college towns, Todd? They drink. They drink a lot. And they smoke the weed. And they do a lot of drugs. That's what happens. So, of course. But what I'm trying to tell you is they were also the top of the food chain as far as sports are concerned in the SUNYAC division, and New Paltz was down at the bottom. They were Goliath. I was David with my slingshot. You understand? And these motherfuckers thought they could stand there and hit a home run off of Frankie and Cadillac around the bases. I wasn't going to allow that to happen. No Cadillacing when Frankie's on the mound. I take these motherfuckers out. Oh, Harry's here. Harry, I was a starting pitcher. Now, Harry is a member. First of all, Harry is one of the OG commenters. Everybody should give a hand to old Harry here. As Phil says, he's a New Paltz legend. I mean, he's a legend. He's not a New Paltz legend. That's Alan Dodds when he shows up. But Harry's a commenting legend and also a member of the Inner Circle. You should join the Inner Circle by clicking the join button down below. But I was a starting pitcher, Harry. And let me tell you something, Harry, and everybody else. There is no more beautiful sight than a baseball field at night with the lights on, and as your team runs out to take the field, and the umpire takes a brand new baseball out of his pocket and rolls it toward the mound, and the ball is sitting there waiting for you to pick it up. There's no more beautiful sight on God's green earth than that, my friends. World Sex Center. Well, I'm sure Steve could fly to Ukraine for legal. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's the weird thing to me. Here he is, famous, rich as all hell, in the movie business, still needs help getting women? What? What kind of a loser are you if you need help getting women in that situation? Shit, man. When I was in New Paltz, I don't really want to get into this. But I don't know. No, I'm not going to get into it. Harry says, I used to go to New Paltz for the chicks back in the... Exactly. How hard is it? This is exactly what I was about to tell a story, Harry. Now, this wasn't in the 70s. This was in the 90s. But, when your face and name are in the papers, the local papers, you get a certain little bit of cachet. So when you're in the bars, guess what happens? And I didn't know this. I had no idea this was going to happen. It's like that song. This is why I keep bringing up that song, Dirty Diana, all the time. If you listen to the lyrics of the song, Dirty Diana by Michael Jackson, is a great song. Basically, that's what was happening to me, but on a smaller New Paltz level scale to what was happening to Michael Jackson on the big, superstar of music scale. Just scale it down to New Paltz scale. That's what was happening to me. And it was weird. But nonetheless, Somebody had to cut those Cortland motherfuckers down to size, and it had to be me. Tish needs to disappear for a while. He was menu shopping. Well, I think what it's going to come down to with Tish is like, was he just, sketchy and skeezy with adult women, which, while sketchy, nothing illegal about it as far as, it could have just been asking Epstein to hook him up with girls. I mean, that's with women, let's put it that way. And in that case, it's just a little weird. It's not, that happens all the time. And while it is a little weird, it's not illegal unless you're doing something illegal, obviously. But, and that's what people who are defending him are saying. Well, yeah, it's a little weird, but there's nothing in here that says they were underage. So, but I don't know. It's pretty sketchy and skeezy. So I would include him in the list that that old boss girl put before. There's lots of bad owners. Tepper is a total douchebag. And I know that from personal experience. This is a guy who paid a lot of money to get his name on things at Carnegie Mellon University. He's from Pittsburgh. Everybody at Carnegie Mellon knows David Tepper very well. He's a complete and total douchebag. We take his money all day long. Put his name on shit. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, but everybody knows it's like, as soon as he leaves, it's like, whew, glad that douchebag's leaving. Get out of here. As soon as the check clears. Did the check clear? Did the check get cleared, right? Okay, we got it. It's in the bank. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, you got to leave, Mr. Tepper. Get the fuck out of here. Harry had platform shoes and a kipper tie. Well, in the 70s, there must have been a pretty magical place in the 70s, to be honest. Because if you remember the 70s, New Paltz, in addition to everything else, was a very hippy-dippy town. So hippy-dippy, tie-dye, artsy-fartsy music everywhere. There's probably, in the 70s, there were people dropping acid left, right, and center. So the girls were probably running around with, very little clothing on and flowers in their hair and tripping and smoking weed and this and that. It must have been a very magical place. Very near Woodstock, for those who don't know, fairly close to Woodstock. So that sort of thing going on there at New Paltz. Now in the 90s, it wasn't exactly like that, but still had the tripping fields. So World Sax Center, it's all weird. Interned for a guy who is in the files. It's all weird interned for a guy who's in the files. Yeah, everything's weird, man. Everything you think this world was, it really is not. The world is not what you think it is, unfortunately. It's all a mirage, my friends. It's all a mirage. Well, it's always good to see love coursing through the chat section. A lot of love going on in the chat. Gotta like it. All right, so what else you guys want to talk about? It's Friday night. I touched on some of the big headlines that have been coming through. Not really a lot for the Jets. So here's some news. According to Mark Maskey, recently fired from the Washington Post, the NFL is expected to begin the 2026 regular season on a Wednesday, September the 9th, with either the Rams 49ers game in Australia or the game in Seattle, hosted by the champion Seahawks. Whichever game isn't played on Wednesday would be played on Thursday. So we're starting on Wednesday this year, everybody. The Sports Broadcasting Act prohibits a game from being played that Friday, September 11th, so it was anticipated all along that with the game in Australia, one of those games would be played on the Wednesday of the opening week. So it looks like we're starting on a Wednesday. They should push it back a week, really. Sacheti, New Paltz is what people think Woodstock is. Woodstock are all yuppies, arty peep. Yeah. I mean, Woodstock really got a reputation because of that one big concert, which was basically placed there because they had a lot of farmland, as I seem to remember, the one in 69. And then because that was such a huge success, it became like a mythological place. But of course, in upstate New York, there's just is a lot of farmland and stuff like that. It's very, very different than obviously New York City. So they just had a lot of land there, really. you know. But New Paltz is just like a hippy dippy college town. You know, I always liked going into the record store. That was my favorite spot. Back then, we had tapes. Some of you kids won't remember. We had tapes and Walkman. The Walkman was the big technology of my day back then. I used to love my Walkman, get some tapes, get some used tapes for a couple of bucks at the old used record store. That was fun. Bell-bottom jeans and tank tops. Now, I never wore any bell-bottom jeans. I would think those are hard to walk in. I would think. I'd probably be tripping more ways than one. How much stock do you put in the scouting combine performance? Is it worth the hype? No. Scouting combine is important for medicals. A lot of the teams get the medicals there. And so that's important. Secondly, other than that, if a guy runs a surprising 40 time, it's important for certain people. Like if you have a cornerback who's considered really good, but people think isn't that fast, but then he runs a 4.3 or something, that's going to help his stock. Same thing for, like if a tight end runs some crazy number, then you go, oh, wow, a tight end who can run. But for the most part, no, it's not that important. The only other thing about it is that's where all the teams go. That's going to be the next big meeting point where all the teams are in one spot at one time. So what that means is in the evenings, guess where they are, Phil? At nighttime, when the sun goes down. They're at the bars and the clubs and the restaurants, and they're all chit-chatting away. Chitty-chat, chit-chat. They start glug-glug drinking. And that's where all the rumors start coming out because guess who's also there? The stupid reporters. And they're all there, and they're all finding out all the tidbits of information. Who's talking about this? Who might do that? And so you start to get some information flowing out because of that. It's all about the drinking. Glug, glug, glug. And by then, teams have sort of formulated their initial plans. Like right now, the Jets and all their coaches and all the scouting staff and Mooj and everybody are having lots of meetings. All our coaches are hired, right? So all the coaches and everybody is watching film now, self-scouting and figuring out their position groups and things of that nature. Then we're going to have meetings and more meetings. We're going to talk about it and and then shortly before the combine, we'll have our initial draft of a plan of how we want to attack the offseason. Who do we want to keep? Who do we want to sign? Who do we want to let go? Who are we targeting in free agency? How many trades we can make? So then our initial plan is set, and then we take our people down to the combine, and we start talking to our counterparts. Mooj starts talking to all the GMs and so forth and so on. And we start to figure out who do we really want and who do we not want. Does anybody want this guy? What about that guy? How about this guy? What about that one? So that's really the value of it. And then you'll start to see some people getting released. Some people might get traded after the combine's over. Some trades might happen before free agency. For example, that could be when if we have to trade for Derek Carr, that's when it could happen. And then once free agency hits, all hell breaks loose. Braden, do you think the Jets will ever? Yeah, why not, Braden? This is the first Australia game, so you got to hope that goes good. The NFL wants to expand this fucker, all over the damn place. Boss Girl. No, 8-track was before my time. I grew up in the time of tapes, like I made mixtapes. You ever make a mixtape, Boss Girl? Those were fun. We made mixtapes, and then CDs came out, so. Yeah, my time was tapes. My dad had some 8-tracks, but my dad also had records. I would listen to some of his records. He had a great Kenny Rogers Greatest Hits record. That's a good record. He had Bad Out of Hell by Meatloaf. That's a good record. He had some weird records. Chili Blue. Woodstock, the town, is 40 miles away from White Lake, where the concert was held. I paid $7 a day for the tickets, and then it became a free concert. Yeah. So, Shetty, so can we all agree just to say no to Tua, Kyler, and any other dud they want to unload? Yeah, agreed, 100%. Todd, smash the like button. Yeah, please do smash the like button. Smash the subscribe button, and also smash the join button so you can join the inner circle where Harry hangs out. Who doesn't want to hang out with Harry W? I mean, come on. Coolest guy out there. And he's in the club. You don't want to be in the same club with Harry W? What are you, crazy? Boss girl, did it come out that supposedly we would only transition tag Brees? No, it did not. What would you ideally do at running back? I would sign Brees. Make it easy. 3 years, $33 million. Let's go. I mean, we don't have to make it complicated. We got the money. Reward the pool. He drafted the guy. He's played well. He's gone through a lot of losing. Just reward him. Give him the contract. He earned it. It's a fair price. Let's go. Just make it easy. Now, maybe he doesn't want that. I don't know. Same thing with AVT. Sign Brees. Sign AVT. Then when it comes to free agency, we got 3 targeted free agents we need to get. Quarterback, Anzalone, and then a wide receiver like Romy the Homie or Wandale Robinson or somebody like that. And if we get all 3 of those done, plus the 2, AVT and Brees, well, now we're sitting pretty for the draft, I'll tell you that much. So just keep it easy. Make it easy. Keep the easy stuff easy. Yes, we were the same era. Oh, okay. Yeah, so then making a mixtape was like a labor of love. If you were going to make a mixtape, like it's not like it is today where you make a playlist and it takes 2 seconds. Making a mixtape, you had to know how long the song was, how much more time you had on the tape. It was quite the undertaking. Hi, karate. I had to perform surgery on many tapes. Yeah, sometimes you had to slice the tape. I mean, it was a lot of work. You had to be dedicated to that fucker. If you gave a gal a mixtape, it was serious. Yeah, exactly. Because it took you so long. They appreciated it, right? If you gave a girl a mixtape with some love songs on it, oh boy. Because that was no easy task. She knew, wow, this took a long time for you to make, huh? Too bad I hate all the songs on it. Braden, the inner circle rocks. Yeah, Braden's in there, too. So not only do you got Harry W., you also got Braden from New Zealand. I mean, come on, these are the coolest people on planet Earth. You don't want to be in the inner circle with Harry W. and Braden from New Zealand? This man, Braden, sometimes he goes on a kayak in the middle of the ocean and listens to old Frankie on the kayak. Can you believe it? What he's doing kayaking, I don't know. But all I do know is in New Zealand, you got a lot of watery areas. And you could take a kayak out on them. And that's what Braden does. Now, tell me that's not cool. You don't want to be in the same club as Braden and Harry W.? What? Are you crazy? $2 a month, you get to hang out with those people. Chili Blue, are you familiar with Robbie Sabo? Yes. I know who Robbie Sabo is. He's the co-owner of Jets X Factor, my friend. Yeah, the only thing that Jets X Factor is good for is the Joe Blewett breakdowns, the film breakdowns by Joe Blewett. I have come to sour a lot on Jets X Factor. I think the other guy there, Nania, is terrible. I've come to believe that almost all statistics for football are pretty useless other than for directional. It gives you a direction. It gives you a little piece of info, but then you really have to confirm everything with film, which is why Blewett is great. Joe Blewett is phenomenal. And then Robbie Sabo, the only thing Robbie Sabo is good for is when he goes to training camp. Now, he goes to training camp, he gets a credential, and he gives you reports out of training camp. Those are decent reports because a lot of our beat reporters, you have to sift through and you have to read between the lines. And sometimes they're telling you good information and sometimes they're not. With Sabo, you know you're getting his honest opinion, and it's usually an okay opinion. But other than that, his film breakdowns, his appearances on Ass Man's channel, no bueno. Yes, I'm familiar. You could say I'm familiar. Harry W. I had 8 tracks in my car and a turntable in my room. Yeah, we didn't have that. We had tapes and we had records, of course. The first thing I had was a record player. I got a 45. Remember Flock of Eagles? What was the song by Flock of Eagles? Take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Remember that song? I think that was the first song I ever bought. The Flock of Eagles song. I had it on a little 45 record. I played it on my little record player, and I thought that was amazing. So we had records and then right into tapes, and then, some period of time after that, then the 90s came the CDs. So yeah, those are the days. Braden says kayak fishing with Frankie is almost as good as baseball at night. There you go. Maybe more people need to go kayak fishing. You got to catch the fishies from a kayak and listen to Frankie talking about the football, and you're catching the fishies, and you're in a kayak around New Zealand. So there you go. Yeah. I mean, and, think about it. If you're in the inner circle with Braden and with Harry W., you could swap stories with these gentlemen about their adventures in life. You may not have any adventures. Maybe your adventures are very, boring and not adventuresome at all. Well, Braden goes kayak fishing. Have you gone kayak fishing? Probably not. So Braden can tell you all about it. Harry W. can tell you all about the bell bottoms and the New Paltz, let's call them parties, and the tie-dye shirts, and all the women with the flowers in their hair and the dropping the acid and whatever else they were doing. These are adventuresome stories. And if you were in the inner circle for $2 a month, which is nothing, you could hang out with these gentlemen. But instead, you're like, nah, I'd rather have $2 a month. Screw that. Michael James Carr wearing number 4 for Jets? Yeah, why not? There's nobody, it's not Mr. Oh, Mr. What did Mr. What was their song, Phil? Woody got the NFL today to stop making public players. He finished. Yeah, we already talked about this, Chili. Flock of seagulls. Yeah, that's what it is. Flock of seagulls. Oh, Broken Wings was Mr. A Flock of Seagulls song was Iran. Oh, I got it confused. Take These Broken Wings was Mr. Oh, well, that's what I got. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again, or something like that. That was the song, I guess. Mr. Oh. See, I guess I got confused with the broken wings and the seagull and there's too many birds. Yeah? Michael James, Jets have the best facilities in football. Just shut up and play football. The Jets definitely have good facilities. I mean, you cannot say they don't. I mean, Woody spent a lot of money. He totally renovated the locker room, and everybody thought it was amazing, including, things like aerated shoulder pad, where you put your shoulder pads. They flow air through them so that, it gets all the sweat out and all this. I mean, little things like that. And plus, it looks really cool. It's more comfortable now, and it's got little enhancements like that. I mean, you can't say Woody's cheap. He's really not. I mean, sometimes he gets squirrely with the cash budget, which I hate, but he really has spent on this team. I mean, he spent for coaching. All those coaches that got fired, they're still getting Woody bucks. You know what I mean? Steve Wilkes is getting a lot of Woody bucks. Same thing with Tanner Engstrand. Well, Engstrand may not because he got another job. But still, all those guys who got fired, they get Woody bucks. And in fact, since the contracts are guaranteed, Engstrand's probably doubling up. In fact. But we did learn today that, remember Ron Middleton? The Jets tight end coach, he wound up in Miami. He's the Miami tight end coach now. Mr. Yeah. Seagulls did wishing. I don't think I remember the flock of seagulls, but I guess I remember their name as a group. Braden, do you know when Frank Reich will speak to? Hopefully, never. We don't want to speak to the media ever. There's nothing he's going to tell you that's important or useful, Braden. We want him sequestered at One Jets Drive, thinking of great plays for Garrett Wilson to get open with, and A.D. Mitchell to score touchdowns on 70-yard passes with, and Breece Hall to run 65 yards for a touchdown. We want him working on the scheme, working with his coaches. We don't need him spending time talking to the media. So hopefully they never do. I mean, unless it's absolutely required by the NFL, we shouldn't be talking to the media. All the media does is twist our words and makes, the 90%, 99% of the fan base that doesn't listen to Frankie, hate everybody and go into toxic mode because of how the beat reporters spin everything. Speaking of which, the beat reporters are not saying much today about anything. They're pretty quiet. Now, one thing that did come out, there was a soundbite that came out about Derek Carr where he's talking about coming back. And he's talking about it, and him and his brother say that Derek is healthy. But then he goes on to say, yeah, and so the two conditions were I got to be healthy, and I'm healthy now, he says. And also I want to play for a winner. And so some of the beat reporters are saying, well, that kind of eliminates him from the Jets, doesn't it? And I say, au contraire. Because if you put Derek Carr on the Jets, and if he's healthy, obviously he's got to be healthy. We talked about that earlier. And you make some very reasonable additions to the roster after that, I think we're in playoff contention. Well, that's not Super Bowl contention, yeah. But okay, 1 year playoff contention. What about year two? We got 3 first-round picks and our second-round pick, so we got 4 blue-chip prospects coming to us next year, in addition to everything we're going to do this year. And if we make the right picks and those guys work out, we could be in Super Bowl contention. Why not? Why not us? I mean, the Patriots did it. Went from 3 wins to the Super Bowl. Why not us? We don't have Drake May. All right, but, Derek Carr is a decent quarterback. So, I don't know. Could happen. Could happen. We got to think positively. Chili Blue, you're bitching of Mitchell. Yes, he can be. He could be a number 1. He's awesome. If someone could just throw him the freaking ball properly. Michael James. Yeah, okay, good. I like seeing this optimism in the chat. Nice. Let's give it a little applause. Yeah, this is what I think. The whole problem with the offense, I mean, listen, we were a top 10 rushing team with no quarterback. You know how hard that is? Teams were cheating up against the run all day long. We couldn't do any play action, nothing. So you give a quarterback who can at least threaten them to some reasonable degree, you get some threat balance, you should be able to move the ball and score points. I'm watching, I've gone through 4 games now, I think. Derek Carr from the 2024 season, he's perfectly functional. Is he elite? No, but like I said, the first 2 games of the season, they put up 91 fucking points. 91 in 2 games. Dos jugadores. I think that's how you say games. 2 games, 91 points. Would take us 10 games to put up 91 points on the Jets. That's Derek Carr and the Saints. So, I mean, yeah, and A.D. Mitchell, if you put Derek Carr on this team and you re-sign Breece and you get AVT, a healthy AVT, and then you have Garrett, and let's say we sign Romy the homie, Romeo Dobbs, and A.D. Mitchell, that's a hell of a threesome. You can't double cover all of them. And those dudes are all good, really good. And whoever you don't cover is getting the ball. So you want to see A.D. Mitchell put up some yards? Put Derek Carr on this team with that 3 wide receiver lineup. Breece Hall, AVT protecting. I mean, and then not to mention, we also got Mason Taylor. And our 4th and 5th receivers are Ike Williams and John Mechie. That's pretty good for a 4 and a 5. So, I mean, how is that bad? Not to mention, Fashanu's going to be better, probably. Mambu's going to get better, probably. Tippmann's going to get better, probably. young players, right? They're going to get better. Membu's certainly and Fashanu probably getting better. So that's a good offense. I'm not sure why people don't think so. I mean, it's basically sign Brees, sign AVT, get one more wide receiver, and it's a good offense. And the quarterback, if you have the quarterback, obviously. So, and that would be the pitch to Carr. Carr wants to play for a winner. Okay. Where else are you going to go, Derek? The Steelers, Mark Caboli puts it at 99% that Rodgers is coming back, by the way, in case you missed that news. Mark Caboli, very clued in, Pittsburgh beat reporter for The Athletic, also clued in with the McAfee show. McAfee from Pittsburgh, A.J. Hawk on the McAfee show, best friend of Rodgers. Those people are probably the most in the know about anything going on with Pittsburgh and Rodgers. And Caboli says 99% chance he believes he's going to sign with the Steelers by the end of this month. So, of all the teams that need a quarterback, that's the only one that made the playoffs last year. And so if Derek Carr really is healthy and really wants to play, he's going to have to think a little bit longer term. We're not a Super Bowl contender next year, for sure. But maybe the next year we could be, when we got 3 first-round picks in what's supposed to be an absolutely loaded class. I think Jeremiah Smith is coming out. What if we add him? Jeremiah Smith might be the best of all of these motherfuckers. What if we added Lenora Sellers and Jeremiah Smith? I got his name right, yeah. The Ohio State kid, right? And plus some stud defensive lineman. I mean, there's a lot of talent. It's a lot of talent, man. Christ's sakes. Boss girl, I'm imagining Reese and his 35-inch arms demolished. That's funny, boss girl. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Reese. For me, it's either Reese or Bane, but I'm leaning Reese. Reese is like a combination of Micah Parsons and Trayvon Walker. Remember Trayvon Walker? Trayvon Walker was the number 1 overall pick. He had 9 sacks in 3 years in college. 9 sacks in 3 years in college. He was the number 1 pick, Trayvon Walker. Remember him? Jacksonville Jaguars. And everybody said, holy smokes, how the hell are you going to pick Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall? The guy had no production, Mel Kiper would say. What about his production in college? He only had 9 sacks. What is going on? How can you take a man who had 9 sacks in 3 years total, 9 total sacks over 3 years in college, and you're taking him first overall? That's insane. Well, in 4 years, he's got 28 sacks in the NFL. So, I mean, it's basically like that. It's kind of like a combo of Micah Parsons plus Trayvon Walker, and his lack of production, sack-wise, Arvell Reese, is directly related to how Matt Patricia was using him. He didn't use him to rush the passer all that much. But he still had like 6.5 sacks last year, even without rushing the passer all that much. So you got to put things in context. So yeah, I'm leaning toward Reese right now myself, but a lot of blue chip talent going to come to this roster over the next 2 years. That's for sure. Braden, I need to know what our base defense is going to be so I can plan for age. Yeah, well, me too, Braden. And I don't know if we're going to know that. It's problematic. A lot of the signs are pointing to 3-4, but you never know. And if you ask Aaron Glenn, which they will at the owners' meetings, which happen, that's a good question. When are the owners' meetings this year? Let's find out, shall we? When are the NFL owners meetings in 2026? Because that's the next time. So March 29 through April 1. primary gathering. So March 29th. So that's basically before the draft, but after the first few waves of free agency. We're just going to have to wait, Braden. We're not going to know because even if they ask AG at these meetings, he's going to say, you know what he's going to say, Braden? I guarantee you. Let's watch for this. Somebody's going to go up to him and ask, oh, AG, what kind of a base defense are you going to run this year? You're calling the plays now. What kind of a defense are you going to run? And he's going to say the following words. Well, we're going to be multiple. We're going to attack, but we're going to be multiple, and we're going to disguise things, and we're going to try to keep the other team guessing what we're doing while attacking at the same time and being aggressive. So he's not going to tell you. So we're not going to know. Well, Carr is younger than Cousins, and he's better than Cousins. That's why. And Minnesota is not a better fit for him because he doesn't want to back up J.J. McCarthy. Now, if Minnesota trades J.J. McCarthy and clears a path for Carr, then sure. Carr and Cousins both want to start, in my opinion. I don't think either one of them want to back up anybody or compete for a job. They just want to go in and be the starter and finish up their career. And Carr is also younger than Cousins, 3 years younger. Michael Jane, Reese on one end, not bad. McDonald on the other end. Well, McDonald would be in the middle. Oh, you mean Will McDonald? Well, Will McDonald will be on the bench, but depending on what we run, it depends what we run. I think we're going to run a 3-4 bear front, which means you're going to have Reese, Briggs, Phillips, another D tackle that would have to sign, and then JJ. And then you bring in Will McDonald as your third down pass rush specialist. And or spy. See, I like Will McDonald in the spy role. Nathaniel Hackett is the OC for LaFleur. So these coaching staffs are becoming finalized now. I think the last few hires should be happening. But it's going to be a lot of rumors and stuff like that for the next 2 weeks, which is going to be kind of annoying, to be honest. Boss Girl, Reese had about 120 pass rush in college with 6.5 sacks. 120 is about 2 games worth. I'd take 6.5 sacks every 2 games. Also best against run out of the 3 guys discussed. Well, there you go. That's why I'm leaning towards Arvell Reese. Plus, if you watch the Blewett breakdown on him, which I strongly recommend you do, you will see he has many, many tools in the toolbox that you covet. Guy's a freak. The more I think about it, I think it's Reese. Regardless of what kind of base defense we're playing. You could use him as a defensive end. You could use him in a specialized role. I mean, don't forget, when Micah Parsons first came in the league, they were using him exclusively as a defensive end. And then as he became a little bit more refined, they would move him around, do some stunts. Now he's over here. Now he's covering people. Now he's blitzing from over there and over here, and they got tricky with him. But when he first started out, they pretty much kept him as a D end for a while, and he did really good at that, and then they expanded his role. You could do the same thing here with Mr. Reese. But yeah, that'd be a funny matchup, Reese against Will Campbell. Now, Will Campbell was playing on an injured knee, so we got to remember that in terms of how embarrassed he got in the playoffs and specifically the Super Bowl. So he's a better player than what he showed you in the playoffs there. But whether he's going to be able to stick at left tackle remains to be seen. I have a feeling he will, but we got to see how much of his struggles really were him compensating for a poor knee. Because my thing was his anchor was gone if you watched it. The anchor was gone. He never had that bad of an anchor, from my memory in college. So to me, that meant that the knee was affecting his anchor, and then as soon as the anchor is gone, then you got to overcompensate. As soon as you try to overcompensate, now your hands are in bad position, and now people are killing you. So we'll see if I'm right about that. I could be wrong, but that's what I think at the moment. And if not, then they'll just kick him into guard. But nonetheless, they're going to need offensive line. They're going to need to decide on Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs has a court case. He could be found guilty. He might not be able to play for them. Uh, for example, although he pled not guilty, I think today or yesterday. So, um, they have a lot of, the Patriots have a lot of roster churn to take care of. They filled their roster up with free agents last year, and that was a solid move. It got them to where they are. They won a lot of games. But now some of those guys are going to age out, and some of the cap hits are going to be to the point where they got to make some decisions. Do we keep this guy? Let him go? What do we want to do here? Morgan Moses, not exactly very young either on that line. So they still got to bulk up that offensive line some more to protect Drake May, who's basically his one problem is the fumbleias. So they got to keep people off of him so that he can perform. Michael James. Reese throwing tackles around like ragdolls. Plus, he's only 20, man. That's the thing. That dude is powerful. He's powerful. Powerful strong, as they used to say. Yeah, throwing 300-pound dudes to the ground. I mean, he's at 245? I mean, that's a huge weight differential. He's just throwing people around. Yeah, I think it's Reese, man. And I think, AG is going to look at it and go, the number 2 pick, a defensive end type who can, rack up a lot of sacks and play the run well, that sounds like Aiden Hutchinson to me. That's what he should also be thinking. Well, we need our Jared Goff, not that, Jared Goff type is a steady Eddie quarterback that you can win with. And that's how they got to where they are in Detroit. They got their quarterback stabilized, and then they just started getting all the other positions filled. It's valuable, even if the guy's average or slightly below average, it's valuable to have a dude who can at least function and run the damn offense. So I think Carr and Cousins both fit that bill, which is why I'd say for us, those are the top 2 targets. Chili Blue, again, you think ABT gets resigned? Maybe. Yeah, the problem is that PFF is projecting him to get a 4-year, $64 million contract, $17 million per. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what they're projecting. So if that's the case, he's not going to take a 1-year deal, obviously. So we'll have to see what the market is. Hopefully PFF is wrong about that. But he might also want to go back to California, where he's originally from. The Chargers, for example, would be a good landing spot for him. So we'll see. We may have to. We'll see what the market bears. We may have to give him a 2 or 3 year deal because he's just that good, and you got to just bite your lip and deal with the injury risk, and then draft a guard behind him, just in case. Have a plan, but he's just that good where you might have to overspend and just hope and pray and keep your fingers crossed that he can stay healthy because he's just that good, man. I mean, that line would be phenomenal. Well, maybe not phenomenal, but the line would be excellent. Basically the same line as last year, except you're swapping out Simpson and AVT. And if AVT stays healthy, I mean, that's got to be a top 10 line at least. I mean, and think about that. If we get an average quarterback, we just want a functional average quarterback, and plus we improve the line by Olu and Membu getting better, young players, and then swapping AVT for Simpson, that's a huge upgrade. And then you get a functional quarterback. I mean, come on. And plus we add another good wide receiver one way or the other. Even if we don't add a free agent, then at 16 we're getting one. That's one less player on defense, but one way or another, we're getting a third wide receiver, and now the offense is pretty much set. Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert, we'll get a blocking tight end in the 5th round. I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Boss Girl, I guess it's in poor taste to say that Diggs choked in the Super Bowl. Well, you know what they say, Boss Girl. The pink substance is a hell of a substance, as they say. Yeah, you don't know. Maybe the person, maybe the thing is, it was his personal chef. What is it with these chefs? You know, President Obama's chef, bye bye, see you later, strangely dies, drowns. First of all, what is a personal chef doing in the water? Who knows? But now you have this guy, Stefan Diggs, over here. He's got a personal chef, and he's getting into a spat. Like, what could the personal chef have done to piss him off? You know, put the wrong spice in the food? What happened? Gave him the wrong ice cream? What happened? I told you I wanted chocolate. This is vanilla. Well, I think you should eat vanilla. It's healthier. I said chocolate. And then he chokes him out. I mean, calm down. But then again, the pink substance is a hell of a substance. So when you're, potentially, allegedly, apparently, allegedly, potentially filled up with the pink substance, you're not exactly reasonable. Somebody brings you a chocolate ice cream and you wanted vanilla, you might kill that motherfucker. Because the pink substance is one hell of a substance. Um, College football, yeah. Uh, Nothing going on there. NFL following. All right. So it looks like nothing much else going on. Karate, they'll settle. Yeah, they probably will. They just want their money, right? That's what usually happens. They don't want to see a guy go to the jail. They just want to get some money. A couple million. It's not a lot to Stefan Diggs, but it's a lot to a personal chef, I guess. Phil says, my personal chef is me. Never tried to choke myself yet. Well, that's the problem. Yeah, you get somebody else. They're supposed to be an expert. What are you bringing me this for? I didn't ask for this. Yeah, but it's healthy. I thought it's dinner time. You gotta have your carbs. You gotta have your protein. Gotta have your veg. I don't want this. I want ice cream. I want I wanted some steak and rice pilaf. What is this? Well, that's not. This is what we agreed to on your meal plan. I don't want this. And then he's all hopped up on the pink substance. Remember the pink substance from the boat? Remember that? Everybody forgets that except Frankie. I remember when there was a pink substance photographed and video with Stefan Diggs and some ladies on a boat. By the way, you should never be on a boat except if it's Braden's kayak and he's fishing. But other than that, you should never be on a boat. Nothing good ever happens on boats except for Braden's kayak. But he was on the boat with the ladies and the pink substance, and they were calling him Daddy. Do you remember that? Oh, Frankie does, but nobody else ever brings it up in the media. It's like these people, it's almost like they protect the players because the player agents give them, I don't know, scoops, breaking news. It's almost like they protect the players because of that. Maybe there's a fault in our system of news reporting. Could it be possible that there's a problem, a flaw in the system of sports news reporting? That's a beard scratcher. That's a beard scratcher. I wonder. And I wonder if there's a channel, like FSPN perhaps, that calls all of this shit out. Oh, and nobody pays attention to it. I was looking at Jake Assman the other day. Not really him, but I was looking at, he had an interview with Gary Vee, so I thought it was interesting. And it was an interesting little chat. Gary Vee is a very interesting guy, if you know who he is. But then I looked and I saw Jake Assman has 43,000 subscribers. And old Frankie has 1,100. Which means in the marketplace, Jake Assman is 43 times better than old Frankie. And I was like, man, this market is fucked up. This market, my God, people appreciate Jake Assman 43 times more than old Frankie. And that was a very sobering realization, ladies and gentlemen. So please subscribe to the channel. We need to catch up to Jake Assman. And we got a long way to go, so hit the subscribe button down below. Otherwise, you may want to join the inner circle because Braden's in there, Harry's in there, Alan Dodds is in there. There's lots of people in there. And you might want to be in there. $2 a month. Hit the join button down below. Otherwise, just hit a little thumbs up on the video. That's free. And with that being said, I will see you.